What is good, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video, and we're here for a retro review for the first time in a very long time. I'm sitting in front of this camera to talk about some older wrestling. I used to do retro reviews back in the day on the channel. Since then, dozens and dozens, I can even say hundreds of retro review series have popped around on the internet. But, that's kind of the good thing. You're getting different opinions and thought processes and shows being reviewed. Now, the show that I will be reviewing and discussing today is a very popular one, and the main reason that I chose it is that it is Royal Rumble season. The Rumble is this weekend, and I wanted to watch a retro Rumble myself and decided to talk about the 2008 Rumble. So in this video, I'll be talking about lots of things, but the main one is the 2008 Royal Rumble, as we're bringing retro reviews back on the channel, and this is the first one back. Now, I was narrowing down between several other Rumbles of note. 2017, because I've been watching back several SmackDown episodes, SmackDown Live episodes from that time period, so I'm around that area now. And I personally think that AJ versus Cena from SummerSlam 2016 is better than the Rumble 17 match, but I could watch both back and be the judge of it for yourself. But that show was 4 hours long, and that's not even including the pre-show. 2015, I thought about because it is a very controversial show, mainly a controversial Rumble, but decided not going to go that route. And another one was 2003. Very good Rumble, a very good WWE title match on the show, but I feel that I will cover that event down the line. So I already have in mind several shows and series that I want to review, so stay tuned to the series to see those take place. But Rumble 2008, all-time favorite one. If you're to ask me my favorite Rumble, this is definitely going to get a mention. It's definitely in the top 3. If I want to be very honest, definitely top 5, but I'd probably say top 3. We're at Madison Square Garden. Now, I'm not going to do these with every retro review, but I'm going to try to preview the time period and things happening beforehand. And the thing that I will say, this is the first event, pay-per-view of 2008. It kind of sets the tone for the year. And when you look back at 2007 for WWE, very, very, very bad year. And one of the things that I always look at is every top star outside of Batista ended up injured or missing time, and it affected the TV. Not too long ago, when the Raws and SmackDowns from that time period got added to the then WWE Network and Peacock, I was watching it when it was on the network. I watched back that era, because that's my childhood. That's what I'm nostalgic for. This is what a lot of people are nostalgic for. SmackDown mainly gets very rough. But if you go through the year, Rey Mysterio, who was a big deal in 2006, he doesn't come back until SummerSlam 2007. Triple H gets injured at the beginning of the year. Undertaker and Shawn Michaels take their sabbaticals. The next big thing, the big project for that, I don't want to say project, but the next world champion, you could have said, the then Mr. Money in the Bank, Mr. Kennedy, was supposed to cash in and then never got the chance to because he got injured. And then he gives the briefcase to Edge, which even as a child, I didn't really like the way they set that up. And looking at it now, I kind of understand it. But even Edge, he gets the briefcase. He gets the world championship. He has to get it up because he's injured. And obviously, the main injury comes to John Cena. But now we're here in 2008. A lot of good things happen. And I can definitely say that 2008 is a step up from 2007. In WWE, and a step up in quality of the viewing, because it is the first event in HD. We're at Madison Square Garden. I would say they should run another Rumble here, but they ain't going back into arenas. They go into all these stadiums now. So our opening contest is a career-threatening match. Ric Flair versus MVP. Ric Flair's career is on the line, but MVP's United States Championship is not. Flair, before the bout, starts talking about all the times that he competed in MSG in his career as a whole, but MVP interrupts in Miami Hurricanes colors. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it's a noticeable color scheme. MVP slaps Flair when he is trapped in the corner, but Flair retaliates with chops and punches. This continues until Flair attempts a figure four with MVP reversing it into a roll-up. MVP thinks he has it won after a 3 count, but Flair's foot was under the rope. More roll-ups and chops take place soon after this until Flair reverses MVP's playmaker into a figure four, and MVP soon submits. And Flair's career continues for several more months, and how you really want to look at it, several more years. Now we go backstage. We're talking about throwback segments here. There's a lot of things that get left on these shows, but Vince McMahon and his son Hornswoggle are talking backstage about their family's history at MSG, and that Hornswoggle can make history tonight by winning the Royal Rumble, and that he cannot trust anyone in this match, including Finlay, who walks in and wonders what they're talking about, and he's reminded not to trust anyone. Then we get a in the crowd report from Mike Adamle, who used to work for the XFL. That was the main thing that I took away from JR introducing him. And he talks about the previous match that took place, and even said that he was at Flair's first match at MSG, which is pretty interesting. And then he previews the next match. If you know Mike Adamle and his time in the WWE, there's probably several things or 2 to 3 things, several things, and it's kind of got matches, but 2 to 3 things that you remember. And one of those things happens tonight. But if you're watching the Peacock version, they ain't gonna, they cut it out, but I'm going to talk about it later. But the next matchup is Chris Jericho versus JBL. Jericho returned at the night after Survivor Series 07, and it set up a match between him and Randy Orton at Armageddon for the WWE Championship, and Jericho didn't even lose that match, but he did not get the championship because JBL was shoved into Jericho, and then Jericho shoved him back, and JBL got pissed about this and attacked him afterwards, and this set up JBL's in-ring return after a year and a half away. And this is one of his first match. I can't say it's his actual first match back because in the promo package he was in ring attire, but his first pay-per-view match back, definitely. And throughout the promo package, JBL was targeting Jericho's neck, which plays a factor into this match. JBL keeps getting back into the ropes several times. The walls of Jericho are applauded with JBL still being in the ropes. The ropes stay involved as JBL launches Jericho into them. This is followed by series of clotheslines by JBL. Once Jericho is launched into the ring post, he starts to bleed. JBL continues the attack until Jericho gets a little revenge and swings a chair and ends the match. And I don't really think this goes anywhere. I know what both these men do at Mania. I probably should have fact-checked if they were in the Elimination Chamber the next month, but for the sake of this show, kinda pointless and is mainly memorable due to Jericho bleeding everywhere, but I kinda felt that it was a little bit pointless, but we get some good stuff later on. Now, speaking of WrestleMania, 63 days away, and a very weird, I'm not going to say weird promo package, but it was a promo package of the time where Kelly was a lifeguard and a person needed Kelly's help just for Mae Young to help that person. It's just like, you're promoting WrestleMania. That felt more like a ha-ha sketch. If you're promoting WrestleMania, you should be showing the WrestleMania moments of the past, but I was getting the pay-per-view regardless. Now, we get a World Heavyweight title match with Edge versus Rey Mysterio. Edge winning back the World Heavyweight Championship at Armageddon. That keeps getting mentioned. But Rey Mysterio becomes the number 1 contender due to help from Batista and Undertaker, helping him survive the Beat the Clock challenge, which has been a long time since we've seen a Beat the Clock challenge. But he's fought an uphill battle, as he's not only having to deal with Edge and the Edge heads, but he's also having to deal with Edge's new partner in Vicky Guerrero, who is the then SmackDown GM. It is an also interesting note that when this match starts, the crowd boos Rey and cheers for Edge. I don't really understand why, but, you know, I liked Edge at the time as well. But I loved Rey Mysterio, so it is what it is. Back and forth early with a couple of drop kicks. Edge tosses Rey to the outside with the referee catching Hawkins and Ryder trying to attack him, and they get sent to the back. Edge big boots Rey off of the second rope and then targets his injured knee, which was a very big part of Rey Mysterio matches from this time period. The knee is too injured and slowed down Rey's 619 attempt. Rey comes back including a bulldog, a senton, and a double stop off of the top rope, which only gets a 2 count. The 619 and frog splash that soon follows gives Rey a chance until the referee is not able to finish the count as Vicky Guerrero pops up out of her wheelchair and pulls the referee out of the ring. Rey, furious about this, is able to set up another 619 attempt, but Vicky puts herself in the way of Edge, and Rey is flabbergasted that Vicky would even do that and tries to go for another splash, but Edge catches him in the air and hits a spear and retains his world championship. I'll just say, I've seen this show several times. The finish of this match and the finish of the next WWE title match was like, they stay in your memory. They just are memorable moments. And it was a good match. Step up from the match above. Now, we get several segments that I don't even really want to discuss, but I wrote them down. So, the first one I will, because if y'all watch my videos on this channel, you know that I overthink. And so, I was overthinking a lot during this one. But Ric Flair is backstage, and Mr. Kennedy comes into his locker room. And he tries to catch up with Flair, and he's trying to insinuate that he's going to win the Royal Rumble. He predicts that he's going to win the Royal Rumble, and then insinuates that he's going to also end Ric Flair's career. But before he can even go into detail with that, Shawn Michaels interrupts him, which those two had a rivalry in 07 that is carrying over into 08. And then Flair tells HBK that he's very close to winning last year's Rumble and that no one can beat him in this year's. Now, this is where I started overthinking. Because Batista and Triple H pop up, and they're former comrades of Ric Flair's in Evolution. I was trying to include Shawn Michaels in this, and Shawn Michaels himself says that this is weird, because he was not in Evolution. He was in DX. And they all say that the best man will win the Rumble. The thing that I'm overthinking about, this was an extremely small room, and you can kind of see the door. They did not walk through the door. Where the hell did they come from to set this up? But just overthinking it and seeing some members of the Royal Rumble match before the match starts. Now, this next segment is extremely weird and a product of the time. I don't even know if they still do Kiss Cam segments, but Maria is the host of the Kiss Cam. Out of the participants, one couple did not kiss, and that's the thing with the Kiss Cam. Just because you sit next to them don't mean you know these people, by the way. And this is mainly just to set up her potentially being in Playboy, which, spoiler alert, she does. And we do get an appearance from Big Dick Johnson as Santino Marella is talking about New York sports teams and that the Patriots will beat the Giants in the Super Bowl, which I thought that was from the year before. Obviously, it is not, so that was perfect timing that they were able to make that reference. And BDJ was out there with a Tom Brady jersey on and other Patriots gear. This will not happen in the modern era, and that's for the best. So now we get one of my, I'm not going to say favorite matches, but just like, I keep talking about my childhood and things I remember. I remember the build of this match a lot. I remember the finish of this match a lot. I know it's not the biggest things to talk about, but a WWE title match between Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy. Now, thing one, I mentioned Mike Adamle earlier. They cut out him calling Jeff Hardy Jeff Harvey, which is just etched in my mind. And I'm not going to forget it. And they even cut the feed of him and just showed the graphic of Orton and Hardy. So the magic of technology. Thing two, two things that happened in the build to this match. Oh, there's a lot that happened in this build of this match. But Jeff Hardy became number one contender at Armageddon. He was already the Intercontinental Champion. Randy Orton beat up his brother, Matt Hardy. He had a great steel cage match with Umaga in which he did a whisper in the wind off of the top of the cage. But probably the most notable thing is doing the swanton off of the stage onto Randy Orton, which is a big moment in Jeff Hardy's career. Something did feel off about this video package because they were going through Randy Orton's career and Jeff Hardy's career, and they're trying to like see the similarities. I felt that they should have focused more on the crazy stuff they had Jeff Hardy doing and why Randy should want to beat him up. But again, overthinking it. The match starts on the ground until Hardy gets it back up with a drop kick that sends Orton into the barricade. Orton tries to leave, but Hardy stops him when he gets hit with an Orton drop kick and attack on the outside. Fighting back, Hardy hits a clothesline off of the apron, but couldn't get any momentum in the ring. This changes after hitting a whisper in the wind in the ring, but it only gets a 2 count. Jeff does a moonsault to the outside. However, back of the ring, Jeff's twist of fate is reversed into an RKO with Randy Orton retaining. Just the momentum of Jeff's twist of fate and then it going into an RKO is just back-to-back matches where I remember both of these things a lot. And I'm going to probably bring up me remember a lot of this show at least one more time. But before we get into our main event, we got the by the numbers. Sometimes these, the more and more you watch Royal Rumbles, it's interesting to see what's added or changed because obviously some of those happen, but, sometimes they start to blend in, every year. But as of 2008, 569 different competitors had competed in a Royal Rumble match. Stone Cold had the then total number of eliminations with 36. Shawn Michaels had made 11 Royal Rumble appearances, which he did not appear in the 2009 Rumble, because this is during that time where he was working for JBL, and JBL faced John Cena on that event. He did appear in the 2010 Rumble, because he really wanted to face Undertaker again at WrestleMania, and he lost that Rumble match. And I don't think he had any more after it. 2 seconds, which was the shortest amount of time in a Royal Rumble match, then held by the Warlord, but spoiler alert, that gets broke the next year. And the number one number has more winners than the number 30, but they didn't specify who won at number 1, but only one person had won at number 30 at that time, and that was The Undertaker, who kicks off this matchup. But before we get into it, 2 side notes. Thing 1, Michael Buffer does the intro for this event. Bruce Buffer, is way better than Michael Buffer. I just had to get that off my chest. Thing 2, they showed like a visual at Times Square, and it was like the event poster, and they had like little TVs in the middle, and it was like showing Rumble stuff in the history. But the thing that I noticed, because I always like to, overview, right next to it was a promo for Pros vs. Joes, which is a show we have all these different streaming services I can't find without having to pay additional money for, which I'm not doing. But Pros vs. Joes was a good show. And every so often you get like a rumor of a reboot or a new version of it, which I think would do very well. Now, here's the problem. I've lost my pen and I've now found it. I don't really know the way that I'm going to discuss this match yet, because I did write down all 30 participants. So I think I'll go through like 5 match highlights, and then the next 5, etc. So I already went through who was number 1. That was The Undertaker. And number 2 is the man that he finished the previous year's Rumble off against, in an all-time Rumble of his, Shawn Michaels. 3, 4, and 5. Number 3 is Santino Marella. Number 4 is The Great Khali. And number 5 is Hardcore Holly. Noticeable thing, Santino was not in the match long. My exact notes is Santino's in and he's out. Foreshadowing. Batista and Undertaker battle, but Batista's not in until... I knew I was going to freaking mess it up. Number 5, Hardcore Holly. Number 6, John Morrison. Number 7, Tommy Dreamer. It's a good reception, but he's in his hometown. Number 8, spoiler alert, it is Batista, and him and Undertaker have a battle that is interrupted by Tommy Dreamer, who gets eliminated after it. Number 9 is Hornswoggle, and number 10 is Chuck Palumbo, but Hornswoggle hides under the ring. Number 11, Jamie Noble. Number 12, CM Punk. Number 13, Cody Rhodes, which, crazy enough, last year's Royal Rumble, the last 2 participants were CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. Number 14, Yamanga, and number 15 is Snitsky. Punk comes in attacking everyone until he's clotheslined by The Undertaker. Umaga hits a spike on Holly to the outside. The WWE Tag Champs team up on Punk, which leads us to our next participant, which was The Miz, who was then Tag Champs with John Morrison. Number 17, the then Gold Standard, Shelton Benjamin. Now we get some big moments here, but we get a grand closing moment from the Gold Standard as he comes in, does some spots, and immediately gets super kicked by Shawn Michaels. Number 18 and 19, former rivals Jimmy Snuka and Roddy Piper. And they relive their rivalry until they are eliminated by number 20, Kane. So it's a very quick appearance for those two. 21, Carlito. 22, Mick Foley, who was surprisingly not a surprise appearance, as he had helped Hornswoggle qualify and got himself a qualification for the Rumble match. And if I believe correctly, they beat the Highlanders to do that, but I'm not 100% sure with that. And surprisingly enough, this is what I wrote down. Mick Foley appears, who has a commentary gig in WWE later this year that does not last long, and a TNA run in him by the end of 2008. Number 23 is Mr. Kennedy. Number 24 is Big Daddy V. And number 25 is Mark Henry. But as of note, Undertaker eliminates Snitsky. And then Shawn Michaels pops up behind him to eliminate him. And then Mr. Kennedy eliminates Shawn Michaels. So we get several quick eliminations all during Big Daddy V's entrance. And the cameras don't really know what the hell they're supposed to focus on. So you almost miss all of this. And Undertaker puts Snitsky through an announce table. And this is during the time period where you had Raw, SmackDown, and ECW. And you got to feel bad for ECW. Because not only did most pay-per-views, they have one match. Most of the time, that match would last like 5 minutes. And they got to sit there for hours and hours. And I do think at some point, they just you can just come out for y'all's match. For the sake of this event, they only had this Rumble match. At least they got to commentate for it. But they were sitting out there for 4 other matches. Point being, this is when they had 3 to 4 announce tables. Because I think they had an international table out there as well. Very bad table spot. And it kind of felt a little bit pointless because you got so much stuff going on in the ring. Speaking of in the ring, Hornswoggle appears and he eliminates The Miz. 26, 27, and 28 is Chavo Guerrero, who was the then new ECW champion. And I did write down, ooh, Chavo. Hornswoggle gets trapped in between Mark Henry and Big Daddy V, but Finlay appears with a shillelagh to attack them, and he and Hornswoggle run off. Now, kind of stupid and pointless because Finlay appeared with a weapon and attacked him, and technically eliminated himself. He was disqualified. They could have done something a lot better with that. But number 29 is Triple H, and he comes out and cleans house. We get a moment of him and Mick Foley reliving Royal Rumble 2000 in the same building as they attack one another. Until we get number 30, probably the most notable thing from this event. Top 2 to 3 Rumble surprises of all time. John Cena, who got injured in October and returned very, very quickly from a torn pec that was supposed to keep him out a lot longer. Now, I think it's a good debate on what's the best Rumble surprise or not. Like I said, this is top 3. I think AJ debuting and Edge returning are up there. If there's any other ones, there probably are. But I think those are like the top 3 that always come to my mind. But this one's made a way bigger deal because he wins the matchup. But how does he win the matchup? Batista reappears, who at one point slid under the rope, and he eliminates Mr. Kennedy and Umaga. Cena reverses the Batista bomb, which gives up Triple H enough time to eliminate him. Cena and Triple H go back and forth between FUs and Pedigree's attempts until a FU is hit over the top rope, and John Cena wins the match, and the WrestleMania sign lights up, and he's going to WrestleMania. But there's a lot of other things that happened before that, and his Mania match ends up being a triple threat match, which is a pet peeve of mine. But just a historic event, one of my all-time favorites. Like I said, it's Royal Rumble season. I had to discuss a Rumble event, and this is one of those that I always go back and am very fond on. Hopefully you were as well. Now, retro reviews for the time are not going to be a weekly series. I personally, this is going to be me discussing a lot here, but my whole idea in bringing back retros reviews was when I was waiting until AEW had a streaming service. That way their content was a lot more feasible and accessible. Now, they do have one, but it's only 2019 and current products. Now, this is where it's going to get a little... It's not even that controversial. It's not controversial, but people will scratch their heads at it. My definition of retro and what I will review is anything pre-WrestleMania 39. Because I started making videos back on the channel around that time period. So anything WrestleMania 39 onward, I'm not counting. I'm not going to review because I've probably already discussed it on the channel already. When I originally did retro reviews, I strictly just did pay-per-views. Now, I'm willing to review some Raws, SmackDowns, Nitros, NXTs whenever they have a streaming service for NXTs again. Same goes for Raw. There's some on Netflix, but not all of them. Dynamites. We got a lot of possibilities for this series, but I just wanted to get my feet dry back in the retro review series, and it's Rumble season. I was watching this event already. I thought, what the hell? Let's go ahead and get this video out. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, if you're watching the Rumble event this weekend, you enjoy it as well. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, because I'll see you in the next one, because I'm out for now. Goodbye.